It's time to warm up the Jag. Both of them. Let's get started. So today we're going to take a look at mainly the red 99 XJR, which you used to have one, Mrs. Wizard.
I did. I loved that car.
It was a really cool car. It was like a 01?
Yes, an 01.
It's an 01. This one's a 99. And this one here is a 2006 XJ8 Vanden Plas, which if you ever look for them on Marketplace or Craigslist, people always type in Vanden Plas. I don't know where the R comes from, but anyways. So an 06 and a 99, what's different between these generations? They look very similar, and then we're going to focus on why this one is here. So let's take a look at the gold one first. You can see the front of this 06 looks very similar to the 99, and Jaguar has had this style for a long time. All the way back to the 60s, I think. You could kind of find these double hump headlights that kind of contour with the headlight. You'll see as we go down the side, though, as we compare the two, the belt line on this one is very tall. Much more taller. This one's in pretty good shape. It's got a few little dings and scratches here or there just from wear and just from age. But it is in very good shape. As we go to the rear, you can see that the tail lights are reminiscent of the older generations. They're just a little bigger. They're taller, they're wider. The car is a little bit taller is really the big difference. You can see here it says Vanden Plas. It's not Vonder. As we go down this side, you'll also see it's in good shape. No scratches or anything. So that's pretty much what the 06 looks like on the exterior. We're going to see some differences when we hop over to the 99. So one thing you can notice right off the beginning here is the two headlights are the same size. They're larger on the outside on the 06. Has the same dual mesh grille there, the same leaping Jaguar on top. Kind of a similar style. But as we come around to the side, you're going to notice the belt line is way smaller on this one. It's not a tall car. It's got Coventry Jaguar wheels on it. They look very nice on this XJR. As we come down this side, you can see again what I was mentioning about the belt line. It is much narrower on this car. And in the back, the taillights look similar to the 06, but they're not as tall. And they're also not LED. We have twin exhausts just like on the 06. Very similar in styling. As we go down the next side, we'll see that it is also not dented or caved in or any scratches or anything going on with it. It's a beautiful car. So there are 7 years between these two cars. There are some differences. For the most part, the design styling harkens back all the way back to the 60s and 70s. They've kept that style for a very long time. The newer Jags, they do not keep this styling. A lot of them, to me, they look like Honda Accords or something. They don't look like this anymore. And this is really what me and Mrs. Wizard like. We really like this older classic styling on the Jags. We'll go ahead and hop in the interior on this one and look around real quick and compare it to this one. One thing you're going to notice, and that I always notice with Mrs. Wizard's XJR, is that I have a tall torso, and with the older models, there's not much headroom. My head would have to be like this, driving it everywhere, and I'd have the seat way back just to be able to have enough room. That is not a problem on this newer platform. So let's hop on inside.
Okay, there it is, ladies and gents. You can see it says it has 97,006 miles. So this is a really low mile car for the age. If we look up there, that dash, it is leather wrapped, so it's in great condition. There shouldn't be any tearing rips or anything because that is such a durable surface. Of course, it is a Jag, so we have lovely wood trim. A very nice analog clock there as well, which appears to be working. As we move back, you'll see that we have a pretty large infotainment system, which is different than what we're going to see next door because this is a newer model. But again, some areas that are going to be same. We have a very common shifter you're going to notice. Again, more wood and more wood there as well. As we slide to our seats, we have very common camel leather on there with some nice kind of a taupe brown piping on the edges. Both models offer 4 doors and a full back seat. You will note that there is more headroom and more leg room here in the XJ8. But the leather's looking great and nothing is wrong. Now, as we come up to our headliner, looking good, and unfortunately, the moonroof area is missing its fabric. As we move back to our center area on the top, we'll see we have a nice little speaker for a cell phone and some nice controls there as well for our garage doors and lights and fun stuff like that. As we move back to the steering wheel, as we always end our segments on the interior, you'll see that we have a lovely Jaguar with a lovely green kind of surround around him. Again, lots of controls on our steering wheel. So, looks good in here. Let's go compare this to the older XJR. Here we are, ladies and gents, XJR time. And you'll see there that it has 56,637 miles. So it actually has less miles than the XJ8 over there. And we're not going to see much of a difference because this is in really good shape as well. As we move up to our dash, again, it's in great condition. No rips, no tears, nothing like that. And again, we have lots more wood grain as well. We have our lovely analog clock, which is a little bit slightly different design than what we saw in the XJ8. As we move down, yeah, that infotainment system definitely got a lot smaller, which only just registers maybe the temperature and the radio station. About it. Not much going on. It does have a bag resting off the gear selector there, but again, we can see that it is the exact same design as it was in the newer model. Again, haha, more camel leather. Yes, this is a perforated on the seat, so it does get, heated and cool coming out from there as well. And on the door card, we do have more wood as well. Now, it seems darker in this car because the windows are tinted much, much darker. It's not that the room is any different. It is just tinted darker. It is a 4-door model like we compared with the XJ8, but not as much room back there. But there's still plenty of space back there compared to a lot of the other cars that we have looked at. As we look up, headliner is looking great. It is a little bit closer down to us, which is a problem for the Wizard, but it was not a problem for me, even though we are about the same height. He is all torso, and I am mostly legs. As we end up at the steering wheel, no kitty in the center, but it does say XJR in the center with some simple controls for the radio as well. So not a whole lot going on different here. We do have some nice wood trim on the edge of the steering wheel, but it's very similar. But there are some very subtle differences. I think we're going to find some differences when we pop the hood, though. Let's go look underneath there.
So here's a departure from classic Jaguar styling. The bonnet opens forward like most cars that we're used to. Has a standard AJ8 in it, no supercharger or anything. We hop over to the 99 XJR, and it's just like we always knew the old Jags did. It opens backwards on the bonnet. And yes, it is an English car made in Coventry, England. We will be calling this a bonnet. You can see under the hood a bunch of white staining. And that's one of the reasons why it's here. They was concerned about a coolant leak with the supercharger. And we found, it's very evident, this hose has burst and there's coolant all over the place. It's sprayed everywhere. That comes as an entire assembly with the lower radiator hose. It's several different connections and things tied into one piece. This is a very cool engine. It sounds really good under load with the supercharger whine. 390, almost 400 horsepower. Very similar with torque, 375, 380, 90, somewhere around in there. I can't remember, but quite a lot of power from this 4-liter V8. The one behind me is a 4.2-liter AJ-V8. This one is a 4-liter supercharged AJ-V8. Obviously, this one has way more power to it. But a lot of similar components and similar styling, design, engine block, all those things. But this one is so much more fun with a supercharger on it, especially if you were to get a pulley upgrade or something like that. The customer did ask us to do that, but you require a special puller to pull the pulley off and a special tool to put the new one on. By the time I buy those tools, I will have lost all the profit to do the job, and then I probably won't do another one for another couple of years, so it doesn't make sense for me to even buy the tools to do the job. So we had to pass on that one. but we're going to do a lot of other things. Obviously the coolant leak is one of them. Another one is the ABS module. We need to take the black electrical portion off and send it off for a rebuild, which is so common on these, and then we'll get that back and put it back on. Mrs. Wizard was no exception. It had the same issue. It had to be rebuilt as well. Let's go ahead and get this thing up in the air. So we're not going to get the gold one in the air, the 06. We're focusing on this one, but we definitely wanted to compare the differences between the different generations of Jaguar. So we do have some panels off here. We were doing leak tests and whatnot. But you can see here's our radiator. Kind of a scary spot if you were to hit a parking stall, boom, right into the radiator. Here's a cooler, an oil cooler here with, looks like a Christmas tree, like a bristles on a tree or something. As we come over to here, we can see coolant pouring down right here. We can also tell that it was blowing all over the exhaust, just leaking for quite a while right there. And that's why it's here, to get that fixed. Here's our AC compressor, everything looks good there. Brakes are about half gone, but they're still good. Nothing loose there. These brakes are also half gone, but they're still good. Sway bar link is good. Nothing loose there. Here's our engine oil pan. Everything's nice and dry. Here's the oil filter, also nice and dry. Steering rack. No leaking boots or anything. Everything looks good there. You can see here the coolant that has been leaking. It's kind of just sprayed all over. This is this white residue. We'll clean that off before it goes. But no leaks from the transmission. Everything looks good there. You can see the flex disc there behind the transmission is in good shape. Everything looks good. No cracks or anything going on there. We have true dual exhaust that goes all the way back through this resonator and dual all the way out the back, which is really cool. The drive shaft is in good shape. That flex disc is also in good shape. Everything looks good there. There's a little bit more of that coolant that was leaking up front. These have interesting rear suspension. I'll show you guys this. They actually have this CV shaft that has actual U-joints, and it has a lower control arm, but it does not have anything for an upper control arm. The actual CV shaft itself is locating this hub assembly. So if this were to fail, this actually can move in and out, cause a lot of issues. But it's a combination of a CV shaft and really an upper control arm all in one unit. It's kind of interesting. Here's our sway bar, which the link is in good shape. The brakes are almost new back here. Everything's good there, nothing's loose. Go to this side. Brakes are good. Nothing loose there, no leaking shocks. Sway bar link is good. And here's our trunk pan. Tires look good. Other than the coolant leak and maybe an oil change or something like that, I really don't see a whole lot going on. So let's get this thing on the ground.
Man, seeing that XJR makes me really miss the one we had.
It was a really sweet car. It started having some major internal engine issues and we got rid of it, but I definitely wouldn't mind having one again. If you're looking at an older Jag, especially the older generations, but those as well. And one last thing, the 06s in this generation have full air suspension all the way around, just like a Range Rover. These are coil springs, as you saw. So is a Jaguar cheap to keep? Are they reliable? Absolutely not. They are not reliable, and they are not cheap to keep.
But they're so much fun to drive.
They are, and they're beautiful vehicles. It's kind of one of those things that if you're going to buy one of these, you have to take one with the other. When the things do fail, the parts are very, very expensive on these. They can be as much as a Ferrari on some parts. $500, $600, $800, $1,200 is not out of order for parts on these per part. They also, like I said, are not very reliable, especially on these. They have air suspension problems as they get age on them. They have wiring issues. They have cruise control issues, all kinds of different things. If you have one of these, you will always be fixing something. Something will be failing, it'll be back in the shop. They never stay out of the shop for very long before they're back in. But they are extremely beautiful. I would be willing to put up with the maintenance to keep one of these XJRs because they are totally worth it.
I totally think it's worth it as well, since you do my maintenance.
Yes, because you don't have to turn any wrenches or get dirty.
Exactly.
Right. But so if you're out there looking at these, oh my God, they're so beautiful, just keep that in mind. It will nickel and dime you with repairs, and they will not stop. It will not let up. It will not give you a break, ever. If you can turn your own wrenches and replace your own parts, and you can get the parts online without any kind of shop markup, you can save a lot of money, and you can maintain one of these fairly reasonably. That's why we were able to get a lot of the cars we have, because I can fix them myself. As beautiful as this one is, I would probably go with the 06 simply because, like Mrs. Wizard mentioned, the torso problem. I drove Mrs. Wizard's XJR for a while, drove it around here and there, and no matter where I got the seat adjusted, I never could be comfortable. It's always tilting my neck or leaning to the side to drive it. It just didn't work for me.
That's because it was my car.
Yes. And actually, Mrs. Wizard's XJR came from Magic Mike. But at the time, we didn't know who he was. We know nothing about him, but he owned that, sold it to Tyler, and then Tyler sold it to us back when I was just becoming friends with Tyler at the time. So that's kind of weird, isn't it? We bought Magic Mike's car and had no idea that we would own a shop someday and he would work for us as an employee. It's odd how that all works, but it's really cool. It's a really cool story. So if you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to work on either of these, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut and we really appreciate it. And make sure to hit the subscribe button because there's many more cool videos to come. Thanks for watching.